When you touch a screen, you expect it to respond. When you see a button, you know it can be pressed. When information appears inside a window, you instinctively understand that it belongs to something larger, something just beyond the frame. These expectations feel natural, almost obvious, but they are not accidents of design. They are conclusions drawn from a very different kind of problem. In the early 1950s, humans encountered a situation they had never faced before. Machines were producing information faster than people could understand it. Radar stations tracked aircraft across hundreds of miles. Defense networks monitored threats in real time. Command centers were flooded with data, arriving from dozens of sources at once. The problem wasn't the machines, the problem was the humans. How do you present information to someone who must act immediately? How do you make sure they see the right thing at the right moment without confusion, without delay? This wasn't about comfort, it wasn't about elegance, it was about capability. The stakes became unmistakable once these systems moved into the air. Fighter pilots sat inside cockpits, surrounded by gauges, switches, dials, and warning lights. Every instrument demanded attention. Every signal represented something that could fail. At high speed, at high altitude, under extreme stress, a pilot had only seconds to decide what mattered. Missile warning systems forced operators to separate real threats from background noise. A single misinterpretation could trigger a response. A single missed signal could mean catastrophe. Air defense networks coordinated actions across vast distances. The people watching those screens weren't making casual choices. They were making decisions that could not be undone. The interface was never about making things easier. It was about making clarity possible when clarity was hardest to achieve. And the lessons came through failure. Designers learned that more information was not better. It was overwhelming. They learned that color was not decoration. It was language. Red demanded immediate attention. Yellow signaled caution. Green meant stability. They learned that layout was not aesthetic. It was hierarchy. What mattered most had to be seen first. They learned that ambiguity was not a minor flaw. It was a lethal one. These principles were not refined in usability labs. They were refined in debriefings, in incident reports, in near misses that never became public. Every button placement, every warning tone, every visual priority was shaped by consequence. By the 1960s, these ideas began to migrate. Early computer terminals adopted the visual logic of command consoles. Information was divided into clear zones. Controls were grouped by function. Status indicators borrowed the color language of warning systems. Workstations for air traffic control, power grids, and industrial monitoring followed the same discipline. Often the engineers building these systems were the same people who had worked on military projects. They carried with them assumptions about clarity, hierarchy, and error prevention. Forged under pressure most civilians would never experience. What felt intuitive to users was not intuition. It was institutional memory, passed along quietly. The interface principles we later called user-friendly were never designed to be friendly. They were designed to be unmistakable. Today we carry those principles in our pockets. Touchscreens respond instantly because delay was once a tactical weakness. Notifications use color and position because attention had to be directed, not requested. Dashboards group related information because scattering it once meant missing what mattered. These systems feel natural because they were engineered to disappear. The best interface is the one you stop noticing, but that invisibility is not accidental. It is the result of decades spent solving a problem most of us have never faced. Every time you glance at a screen and understand it without thinking, you are benefiting from a solution designed for someone who could not afford to think. The windows, the buttons, the menus, the layouts, they were not created to make life easier. They were created to keep someone alive long enough to make a decision that could not be taken back. And now, they are everywhere.